In my previous two presentations, I have outlined where it all begins, the antiverse, and who kicks off the process, the Absolute. The question now to ask is, what is being kicked off? The answer is the monad. What is a monad? It is the smallest unit of matter that can exist. Note the word matter. This is important to remember and is the foundation of all that will follow. The existence of this unit of matter in the antiverse is called primordial matter. It resides in this state as an undifferentiated mass, which is infinitely dense and infinitely elastic. It is difficult to see the monad in this state as being separate from any other monad, as all monads are compressed into a single unit of being. We are told that the antiverse is supplied with a limitless supply of energy. Somehow, this energy must spread itself amongst all this undifferentiated matter. However, is this matter conscious? It seems not, because the whole point of transferring the single unit of matter from the antiverse to the universe is to wake it up, is to give it some level of consciousness. This brings us nicely to the fundamental qualities of the monad. It has to have three components to its existence, and these components are inseparable. We all know it is composed of matter, but unlike what is in the antiverse, on entering the universe, the monad begins to rotate. It is able to move now. It does so by spinning on its axis. How is it able to spin? Because it is supplied with energy, fohat, that causes it to be in motion. As long as the monad is in the universe, it is supplied with a continual reserve of energy. How can this be? To answer this question, I wish you to review what I said that a primary atom actually is. It is an empty space in the antiverse. A bubble forms in the infinitely dense and elastic matrix of the antiverse, and the void that is created is called a primary atom, as opposed to a primordial atom. This primary atom appears into a void, which itself is created by other monads having filled out that space. It must be appreciated that there is absolutely no free space in the universe. In this space, monads may not be able to touch one another, as they do in the antiverse. But they do occupy a discrete space where their field of influence ends, another monad's field of influence begins. More on this field later. Why there can be no space in the universe that can be left unoccupied is because if there was a space, the external pressure of the antiverse would cause the universe to collapse. Now I'm going to try and describe something that would be even difficult to describe in 3 dimensions. In reality, where I am talking about actually has 51 dimensions, but I will get to that at a later date. What I have been trying to represent is that although the monad is pinched off in a vesicle of empty space, it remains connected to the antiverse. I have tried to represent this in a 2-dimensional form, which I know is inadequate, but it helps me get across the point I wish to make. This point is that the monad remains connected to the antiverse, and this gives it its unlimited supply of energy. It is like driving an electric car, with your motor being continually connected to its power supply. This connection with the antiverse explains why the monad has mass. Its mass comes from the drag of it having to move through the infinitely dense matrix of the universe. Note that I am using the term mass and not weight, which is defined by the attraction of one body to another. Physicists would call this gravity. I call it electrostatic attraction. We have now defined two attributes of the monad in the universe. It is made of matter and it has a mass. It also is spinning on its axis and has an unlimited supply of energy. You can visualize these monads as being a source of energy for the universe because even though they are discrete units of matter, so is the electric current in a wire. Remember, everything is matter. So if you get energy from somewhere, it has to come in a packet of matter. If you take a copper wire and insert it in between two magnets, you end up with an electric current. If the current is already inside the monad and it is spinning, you end up with a magnetic field around it. This magnetic field is what we know as consciousness. It is a very important concept to grasp. Consciousness is the result of a unit of matter spinning due to a supply of energy. Like our Earth, this creates a magnetic field, and somehow this field contains what we define as consciousness. Okay, so let's take stock. We have a monad. We have defined it as now having three components. It has mass, it has motion, and it has a field around it that we call consciousness. Note that the consciousness field is the result of the matter being in motion. If this monad was just matter, this field would not be generated. This implies that you cannot have consciousness without matter and energy motion also being present. Stop and think about this and really drink it in. How many times have you heard people talking about consciousness as though it is something discrete from matter? The vast majority of students of esoterics make this mistake. I hope I have shown you why such a viewpoint is inaccurate and for what reason. We have defined the fundamental unit of existence and its attribute: matter, motion energy, and consciousness. Where is this monad sitting at present? It is on the first plane of matter. It has come out of the antiverse, even if it is just an empty space within the antiverse. It has taken up residence in our universe. This primary atom is the most energetic unit of matter there is. It is the engine that is going to drive all the other 48 planes of matter. Remember, we said it had three attributes. Are they all active and functional? The answer is no. The monad may be composed of matter, as we know it, in our universe. It may be in motion, but the magnetic field it is generating, although defined as consciousness, is not actually functional yet. What do I mean? This monad may have a field around it, but that field has not been activated. So, at this stage in its evolution, a monad is said to be potentially conscious, not actually conscious. This is an important distinction to remember. Should we be worried about this? No. Think of your own consciousness development from when you were a child to where you are today. Do you exhibit the same degree of consciousness now than when you were an infant? Clearly not. What happened in the interim period? Your consciousness was slowly activated. In most people, extremely slowly. The same applies to the primary atom. It is just beginning its journey into the universe. Its consciousness needs to be worked on by other external forces that will slowly rouse it from its slumber. It will eventually become a self-conscious monad, like you and me. That is a very long journey, and one that I will cover at a later date. For now, I just want to reflect on where we have got to so far. We are sitting in a universe. We are discrete from all other matter. We are stuffed full of energy. We have the potential to expand a field of magnetic energy that exists around us. We can do this to a point where we have an active third component that defines who and what we are. What happens to the monad now it is present on the first plane? We can discuss that next time. Thank you.